you remember that time when we were driving across the country and you were driving my car and
Right.
you had a little incident?
I recall the incident.
Why don't you tell us about that?
Let me tell you about that.
We are the lifeguards.
I have to resist.
And if only we had Hasselhoff himself.
If only we had David here.
It would just...
David, if you're listening to this, you have an open invitation ever.
We would love to have you on our podcast.
The rest of the cast are not invited.
No.
But Mr. Hasselhoff, you have an open invitation.
You are welcome, sir.
You know, here at the Lifeguards, we don't want you to fall asleep at the wheel. Literally and figuratively. You've got a lot of areas in your life that you're juggling: family, career, marriage, finances, all this stuff. And if you fall asleep at the wheel, you could drive your life right off the road. So let me tell you, so Ryan and I, about 20 years ago, we were doing a little road trip. We were driving from Texas to South Carolina. This is about a 15-hour commute, a 15-hour drive. We were going to spend some time on vacation with Ryan's family. And we were going to hammer this drive out in one day. So it was Ryan and I and a couple of our friends. We hit the road early in the morning, just before dawn. And I don't know about you, but I find that is like the most difficult time to drive. The sun is kind of starting to come up. It's still a little bit dusky and darky, but I find it difficult to drive. So anyways, we had set up this great system so that if it was difficult to drive and you thought you might fall asleep, you know, you had a passenger, and they had the creative title of Keep Awake. And Ryan, do you remember what the job of the Keep Awake was? They had one job.
Yeah, I think I do. It was to keep you awake.
It was. So unfortunately, in this scenario, my Keep Awake had fallen asleep.
Ugh.
And it wasn't long after that I, as the driver, also fell asleep. We're driving down the interstate. I'm fast asleep. But it wasn't for long. It was only a short sleep because I was awakened. I had an awakening.
Wow.
And it was an alarm. It was not like a phone alarm, but it was an alarming sound. And it was like, da, 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 da. And what that sound was the front fender of Ryan's precious Honda Accord, if I recall.
That's right. It was a nice green.
It was green, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Honda Accord, the front fender is just bashing up against the rear wheel of an 18-wheeler in the next lane on the interstate. So I quickly woke up. I swerved back into our own lane. And I don't remember if everyone woke up at that point or how it all happened. But
yeah, I think we started to awaken ourselves and wonder, what's going on?
What's going on? So I actually have never, I don't think, driven Ryan's car since that incident. But we woke up, we got back in our lane. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. The only damage done was to Ryan's car. And, you know, I always say that Ryan owes me one because I saved his life. But Ryan sometimes says that I owe him one because I wrecked his car. But it wasn't that bad of a wreck, and we got out of it. But don't fall asleep at the wheel is the moral of that story. And so we just want to, on the Lifeguards, talk to you as if you're men listening right now, you have families, you have children that you're leading. You got to live your life with intention and being intentional. I have a friend, Bill, and Bill always used to say to me, if you aim at nothing, you're going to hit it every time. And that's true in your career. That's true in your family, in your marriage, with your children, in your relationships with your friends, in your growing personal development. If you aim at nothing, you're going to hit it every time. So here as the Lifeguards, we want to help you aim for something and hopefully hit some of those goals that you're aiming for. So talking about being intentional here, it's not just kind of doing whatever comes along in your life, like focusing on specific areas. I'm big into goal setting. I know, Ryan, you are as well, but not just a lot of the business books and the books that are about setting goals in your careers and stuff, but kind of forgetting the other organization that we're a part of, the most important organization that we're a part of, and that is our families and our homes. So we want to encourage you guys, don't fall asleep at the wheel and live with intention in what you're doing. So if you are in a spot now where you're feeling, okay, I am getting kind of off track, I'm starting to, drift off a little bit, head over to the side of the road, Well, what are some things that you could do to fix that? I don't know, Rye, have you ever had a time in your life where you feel like you're going through a bit of a funk or a slow thing and something happened to kind of snap you back into it, or you had to change something? Does that ever happen to you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, anytime you have a moment of adversity, in this case, when you were, trying to dance with the 18-wheeler on the interstate doing 70, 75, I just thank God that we didn't all like just slide right under that 18-wheeler and we wouldn't be here today talking. But I feel like adversity is an awakening also moment. When you get sick, someone you love is sick or struggling, something's going on with your job or something's going on with a loved one, and all of a sudden it sort of like awakens you. It's like being at a funeral. Funerals are excellent for this, and you're there, you're seeing your loved one or someone else's loved one that you love them, and so you're there to support them. And the reflection opportunity of a funeral is significant. It really you start being able to process and think about what is most important in my life and where am I spending the majority of my time, and are those two things the same thing? Because where your money is, where your time is, that's where your heart is. And so if you're spending a ton of time at work and you're not spending enough time with your family, that's an area that you might need to reflect on and switch. So I think some of those adversity moments, losing a loved one or someone getting sick, can be one of those moments where you can kind of awaken a little bit.
Sure. I want to just kind of talk a little bit about our kids and our relationship with our kids, because I feel like that's sometimes an area that we can just let slide. So actually my daughter Annabelle is here helping do some of the recording and stuff today. And I just try, as dads and as fathers, we need to be intentional with pursuing our kids. Actually, Rye, the other day you said to me you got home and your daughter was kind of on her own or something. And that was a little bit, I hadn't thought about that until now, but you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, so the other day I was interviewing somebody for a job, and it was a younger guy, and he needed some encouragement and a little bit of just wisdom. And it really wasn't about the interview at that point. I was just trying to help him. So I spent a little extra time, maybe another 20 or 30 minutes, trying to help him out a little bit. And then I get home and my daughter's in her room doing something, and I'm mentally exhausted. I'm just drained from the workday or whatever. And I said hello, or I went in and maybe hugged her or kissed her goodnight or whatever, but spent very little, if any, time with her. And I thought about that later, and I was like, it's great that I helped this young guy. It's great. Like, I'm glad I did it. But here I am, like, pouring into him, and then I have a amazing daughter that I am fully responsible for, with my wife, and I'm not spending the time that I need to spend with her and cultivating that relationship. And so I went to her, afterwards, and I was like, look, we've got to find a way to spend more time together. Like, this rhythm that what's happening is not going to work. We've got to find something that we both enjoy doing together that, we can kind of be on a rhythm for. So yeah, that was a little wake up moment of like, if I pour into everybody else and I make them the best they can be and I inspire them to grow, but I don't do that for my own kids, like, I'm a loser. I'm like loser of the year award. So
not a very good lifeguard if your own kids are
drowning. No, exactly. They're out there, swimming, and there's like some sharks circling, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm talking to this person on the beach right now, like, not paying attention. So, and I'm not saying you can't do both. Great. If you can do both, do both. But if you got to pick, I think your kids go first, before the other people in your outside of your family unit life.
And so to be intentional with that, I think we need to find ways that we can engage with our kids. And I know there's been opportunities where I've brought my kids to work with me for the day, and even my son, who's 6 or 7 at the time, and there were little things he could do that he loved just coming along. Actually, a friend of mine, he takes his kids to work on their birthdays, they come to work with him. They don't do anything particularly special. Maybe they have lunch or something, but it's just a regular work day for him, and they like to come, and they're homeschooled so they can do their work in the office with him or whatever. But those are the kind of things that there's intentional one-on-one time. You're driving the car of your relationship with your kids, and you're making sure that you're not falling asleep at that wheel.
Yeah.
So by intentionally spending time with them, taking them to work, going on dates with them.
Yep.
You mentioned, I think, doing hobbies or something that you both have an interest in.
Yeah.
But dads, as fathers, we really need to be intentional. There's so many sharks circling our kids right now, with social media, with relationships with friends, with the influences that they're getting, even their own thoughts in their own head that there's an enemy trying to take our kids out, our daughters especially, in the way they think about themselves. We have to really be intentional about pouring good, healthy encouragement into our sons and daughters, so that the voice that they hear in their head of dad is not dad criticizing them and being critical of their schoolwork or of their clothing or of their hobbies that they're not improving at. But my friend Heath said that one thing he tries to say to his kids is that, you are the daughter that I always wanted. Like, God has given me the daughter that I've always wanted, and that is you. And it was a good reminder to me when he said this, like, I need to be saying that to my kids, pouring encouragement and belief and faith in them. Looking back on my own life, my dad he always said, Jay, whatever you want to do in life, you'll be able to do it. And I hear that in my head over and over again. My dad always said it. And so number one is try and do things with your kids that are one-on-one. I have 9 kids, so carving out intentional time, like today, taking Annabelle here to help with this. This is one-on-one time that we're getting to spend together. And secondly, just watch what words you're saying and what soundtracks you're putting in your kids' head. I know John Acuff just has a new book that came out about a year ago called Soundtracks, and it's all about, what are the soundtracks we're playing in our own head? So what are we programming into our kids' head as fathers to encourage them and to help them grow?
Yeah, that's really good. I think another thing would be, as you're thinking about, like, you've got 9 kids, I've got 4. That's a lot to schedule.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen accidentally. You're not going to
Sure.
You're not going to just. I mean, there's times I get home, like I said, I'm exhausted, and I'm ashamed to say it. Sometimes I'm kind of hoping that my kids have gone to bed, or they're doing something.
I don't think you have to be ashamed to say that. Like, if you're a dad listening to this, I am pretty much 100% sure you can relate to what Rye just said there.
Making up my statistic, maybe it's higher than I think, but yeah, but it's like, I don't want to feel that way. I want to be ready to engage my kids all the time, and there are times where you feel guilty. You're like, I want to be there for you. I want to invest in you. But the life cycle dynamic each day is so different, and our days are very full, and school is full, and work is full, and household chores and laundry and all the things that have to get done. But if you don't change something, it's not going to get any better, and it's not going to be any different. And my oldest daughter is 14. I mean, she's graduating in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I mean, I get something like 4 years with her left, maybe 5, until she's really moving into that adult phase of life. And, my wife and I were married at 20. So she's 6 years away from that mark. Mm-hmm. She can get married whenever whenever it's right for her. I'm not saying it has to be 20 or whatever age. It's different for everybody, but that's not very long. And so I've got to be protective of the time that I have with her, and I gotta guard that time. And I want to get better at that. I haven't been as good at that as I'd like to be. So that's an area I'd like to grow in and spend more time, planning, as you said, being thoughtful and not just falling asleep at the wheel. Mm-hmm. And so, but if you don't plan it and then you don't have a target for it, you're not going to hit it, like you said. So what you will hit is your daughter or son will continue to grow up, and you'll be intermittently involved in birthdays and events and school stuff here and there. But they won't have that close connection with you. And they'll be getting poured into, because the vacuum will be filled by something.
Yeah.
So someone else will be pouring into them,
And I don't think it has to be, it doesn't have to be big, grand, expensive. It could be going for a walk.
Exactly.
It could be.
Well, that's one of the things we talked about, is like, she likes to run. I like to walk. So we could do a walk, an
Sure.
early morning walk. It's one of the things we're probably going to start doing, and that's one of the things we can do together. She's learning to play the guitar. I'm mediocre at playing the guitar, I know more than her at least. So that's something that I can kind of help with some here and there. But finding those things that it's got to be something that you can sustain. Like you said, it's not like we're going to Disney World. I'm taking everybody to Hawaii so we can all be close. It's like one trip a year or 2 trips a year is nothing, but 20 minutes a day could be everything. You know?
And there's those opportunities where, so last night I was putting together some stuff for today. I was sitting at my computer. My wife and my 3 daughters are laughing and joking, and they're like hysterically laughing. And I just look up and I said something. Then they start laughing at me because they think I'm being such a loser, just sitting there by myself, getting all this stuff ready. But that was time that I could have engaged with them when I had to get stuff ready for today. So that moment wasn't the moment that I could do it. But there are many moments when I'm sitting looking at my phone, someone else is looking at the computer, maybe someone else is watching TV. And so we're all engaging in screen time independently of each other.
Right.
And how many minutes am I losing out of where I could be engaging with my kids and we're looking at screens?
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic that we could hit at some time, I'm sure. But we don't have to really work that hard to create moments in our schedule that we are engaging mentally and physically, being there with our kids. So
Yeah, and I don't think it, like you said, I don't think it has to be even long. I think consistency over duration. You know, when I was growing up, my mom would, when we went to the bus stop, because the school bus would pick me up, she'd read the Bible with me and pray with me before. I can't imagine that took more than 5 to 7 minutes.
like at the bus stop.
At the bus stop. In the car, we'd be sitting in the car.
Sure.
And she's reading and praying with me
That is such a great example.
every single day until I started driving. That's what she did. And what were the long-term effects of that? Huge. Can I tell you exactly what they are? No way. It's not quantifiable. But do you think it made an impact? Absolutely. Were we spending 2 hours today or 2 hours a day together? No, not like in that moment. But that's 5 to 7 minutes. She was sowing godly seeds into me and discipling me and speaking the word over me and praying for me and setting up my day. The long-term effects, you know, people say that you overestimate what you can do in a day and underestimate what you can accomplish in a year.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too. I jam everything I can in a day, but I don't look at the year, and so as well as I should. And so I don't think there's an exact duration of time, but I think it's less than we think it is.
Right.
Maybe it's less than I
Right.
think it is, but consistently
Over 18 years.
is huge.
Just as you're talking about that, I was thinking about Malachi 4 verse 6 is one of the last verses in the Old Testament, and it's talking about turning the hearts of the fathers towards the children. And so with the whole idea of lifeguards, dads, if your heart is not turned towards your children, if it's turned towards, you know, fantasy football and scrolling through social media or whatever, man, our prayer for you and our encouragement to you is that, you know, just take a few minutes in your day. You don't have to revamp your whole life. Take a few minutes today in the morning, at a meal, on a drive somewhere with someone. You know, instead of pulling out your phone, ask your son or your daughter a question about what they're looking forward to next week. What was the best part of your week last week? And just take those moments and build on them. So be intentional when you're driving down the road of life with your kids and your family. Take advantage of those moments and be intentional with them. Take your kids out, maybe if you can do that. Take them out for an ice cream, go for a walk with them. But if you can't book an hour, book moments and take advantage of those moments with your kids.
I love the moments part, and because if you think in terms of minutes, that's accessible. Hours, maybe not, but moments, that's awesome. I love that. Take a few moments, take a few minutes each day, and again, with you, that adds up. You've got 9, plus your wife, and so that takes some time and some strategy. And I've got 4 kids, and that takes some time and strategy. And I want to have a touch point with every single one, and so I love that.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We super appreciate it. If you want to hear more of our stories and kind of see what's going on with the lifeguards, you can find us online at thelifeguards.net, and we'd appreciate hearing from you. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at The Lifeguards. What else we have, Rye?
YouTube. Yeah, thelifeguards.net. And we're just very thankful for the opportunity to be able to share and just hopefully give a little bit of information and encouragement and hope and humor and just talk about life. So if there's particular topics you'd love to hear, we would love to hear from you about what those are, so we can include those in future episodes. Yeah, we're just here to serve you guys. So any way we can do that, please let us know.